Kelowna is on the verge of a big housing decision that could reshape the market again. For the first time in years, the city finally has a healthy rental vacancy rate, somewhere around 5 to 6% right now. That's a massive shift after decades of near zero availability. And now, because of that improvement, Kelowna has the option to opt out of BC's provincial short-term rental restrictions, the same rules that wiped out thousands of Airbnbs back in 2024. But the real question here is, should they? This update comes straight from a recent Castanet News report covering Kelowna's latest council decisions on the short-term rental policies. Now, under the province's new framework, cities can only opt out if their vacancy rate stays above 3% for 2 years in a row. Kelowna hit 3.8% in 2024, and this year's number is expected to land between 5 and 6%. Giving council the green light to bring short-term rentals back, at least in some areas. Kelowna Council adopted the staff's recommendation that would allow developments to reapply for short-term rentals if they had applications in stream before the rules were changed in 2022. These projects include Aqua, Brooklyn, and Movala, among a few others. But the decision isn't as simple as flipping the switch back on. Councillor Luke Stack reminded everyone that for the last 20 years, Kelowna's been in a rental crisis, and now that we've finally caught up, one wrong move could set us back again a decade. He said we can't lose sight of how long it took to reach a reasonable vacancy rate and how easily it could actually slip away. And City Manager Doug Gilchrist pointed out that any changes that the city makes now could be reversed later if Kelowna ended up in another housing crunch 5 or 6 years from now. And Mayor Tom Dias agreed that a light touch approach makes the most sense, restoring short-term rentals where appropriate, but without harming people who actually live here full time. Now, before the crackdown, Kelowna had about 2,600 short-term rentals, but only around 1,000 were actually licensed. The rest caused constant issues, noise, parking, and disruptions in residential areas. Now, personally, I think this is the cautious approach is smart. As someone who watches both housing and in the investment side of the market, I see how tempting it is to bring back short-term rentals so quickly. But if the city moves too fast, we could risk losing the rental stability that's taken 2 decades to rebuild. A targeted return, especially in the commercial or residential zones, makes way more sense than a full reopening. Now, once the city is officially informed it has surpassed the 3% threshold for a second year, it has until the end of March to inform the province that it wishes to opt out. However, final approval from the province typically does not come until November of 2026, meaning those residents actually affected would lose out for yet another summer season. And that's really tough timing, especially for 2026, where it's shaping out to be one of the busiest summers ever with the Memorial Cup. 2 BC Lions home games are actually going to be at the Apple Bowl, and the BC Summer Games are all happening here during the summer of 2026. And further to the report, Councillor Ron Cannon said he's already hearing from some residents frustrated by the shortage of short-term rental options for those events specifically. And personally, I get it. From an economic standpoint, that's a missed opportunity. 2026 could be a record year for tourism here, and having limited accommodations puts pressure on visitors, event organizers, and even local homeowners who may rely on that income. But on the flip side, keeping supply tight a little bit longer could help push rents down further, and that's something the city still really needs. Now, if the city of Kelowna officially opts out and the province approves it, we could see a limited comeback of short-term rentals by late 2026 or early 2027 if they have to follow the actual provincial guidelines of getting the approval in November of 2026 and then going forward from there. So for investors and developers, that's going to be a waiting game. Projects, again, like Aqua or Movala could be reactivated, but approvals, again, will take time. My advice, if you're banking on short-term rental income, don't assume this is a quick win. Look at it as more of a long-term play. And remember that short-term rentals aren't guaranteed to return, so don't make the decision to buy strictly based on the short-term rental income. And at the end of of the day here, Kelowna's facing a balancing act between affordability, tourism, and housing supply. If the city can bring back short-term rentals in a controlled, well-zoned way, that's a win for everyone, but it does have to be gradual. We worked really hard to get to the 5% vacancy rate with a ton of new purpose-built rental buildings going up all over the city. And if we blow it now, it could take another 10 years to get it back here. So what do you think? Should Kelowna bring back Airbnbs or short-term rentals, or hold the line to keep the long-term rents stable? Let me know down in the comments below.